Okay, so here we are, Blenheim, 5 p.m. There's only an hour and 40 minutes left of game time. What happened? Well, beyond me having a meltdown on the last video, less to do with the game than other things in life, and acquiring a new addiction. Who knows what that'll result in, but probably nothing good. Let's take a look at what the game, the changes in the game. So, it looked like the French had the Allies on the ropes, thinning out the line over here and here, where they might have gotten advantages there. And here in the center, they were collapsing the English into a position from which, the Allies in general, into a position which would be very difficult. If they started routing, they'd be routing through their own units and causing real problems as the troops became too consolidated. But things changed. Here, the Allies are still sparse, and there's a fair amount of French force here. There's a possibility they could win the game over here. It's not going to affect much else. If things do collapse over here, there's going to be they're just going to win. So the Allies are more on a defensive front, but as you can see, they actually pushed a little bit further in, so not all that defensive. Coming over here, the Ally reinforcements into this position are beginning to overwhelm what looked like a pretty close fight. And they've actually got infantry moving into position here as well, which is going to stabilize things a little bit. Cavalry tend to be more chaotic, tend to cause more disruption. Over in Oberglau, all right, Oberglau is interesting because it's been the nothing happens here, but the thing is the Nangi Brigade had been stretching out and pushing here, and now it's been broken by a cav, the Noyales cavalry, managed to bust it and knock it out of there. And now there's a big gap. That gap is really important because that's throwing this entire, and this is where the battle actually historically was won, this entire big wing into chaos on the French side. And there just aren't a lot of reserves across the entire French army. Meanwhile, though, things over here don't look too bad for the French. If they had gotten some charges in or something, this might look like on one side the Allies are winning, on one side the French are winning. But instead, the Allied forces look like a disorganized mess, although they're breaking through, and who knows what that might end up meaning. And then over here we've got the standard stasis. I do have a couple of brigades from there that I can try to pump into other I can pump into the plains here in order to strengthen the position there. Eventually though, a line gets so weak that I can just start throwing stuff at it. It's going to be a while before I start playing again. I want to do some Crusader Kings, although I may step in, like I did with, once I got started with it yesterday, I might step in and play, a turn or so over the course of a day while I'm playing Crusader Kings. The other thing is, I am in the midst of something where I have to put a decent amount of effort into raid as well. Just not really convinced that I need to do it right now. I kind of like to see what happens in raid after today in terms of the expenditures that I have today. But I do have a major commitment in terms of play that I have to put into there. So I don't know. But I am addicted to Crusader Kings. And at the same damn time, I'm really enjoying the book I'm reading, which is this Hammer Slammers collection, more than I thought I would. I forgot the other thing I read of his just didn't feel as good as this. This just really feels well grounded. I don't know. I can tell you one thing that I like about it is it's sort of short stories for the most part. There might be a novella or two in there that are all, you sometimes have recurring characters and whatnot, but you're not going in big on character development or any of that. It's just these are people that you see, and the storylines aren't really all that continuing and everything. And it kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that I really liked where there maybe weren't recurring characters, but I'm thinking of there were a few books that I really, really liked in the science fiction realm that had sort of just these standalone situations that, all formed a big tapestry that made sense together. And here I'm thinking the first book of the Lensman series, Triplanetary, The Man Who Sold the Moon by Heinlein, and the first book of the Foundation series. All of these were like things that linked the story together, but without really being the same characters. And in a lot of cases, these Hammer Slammers things don't have, the same characters in them. People are expendable in a mercenary company, There's a couple who show up again and again, and obviously, they're sort of the main characters, the colonel and his bodyguard or whatever are pretty prominent, but they're not always the focus of the story. They're usually more incidental off-board characters where they show up as focus. It's kind of cool. I really like that style of storytelling where you're showing a broader picture, but you're showing it through incidences that are standalone stories that kind of build up to the main. Another one that kind of reminds me of it is The City by Simek. I think it's by Simek. I want to say it is, but maybe I'm mistaken now. Certainly not by Clark, is it? It's either by Simek or Clark. I don't know. Anyway, I really love, again, that has this set of stories one after the other with differing characters, differing situations and everything, but it gives you this tapestry of a broad history. And I feel like I'm getting the broad history of this mercenary company through these snapshots. In the same way, it's not the same as like Foundation, where you're just getting, galactic history, but it doesn't really matter. Oh yeah, and video-wise, I'm watching a bunch of forgotten people of history, and I've been kind of focusing. A lot of it is on various queens and whatnot who didn't really, didn't get the huge name recognition. Some of them are bigger, but like right now I'm watching one on Catherine Swynford. How often do you get a picture of her life? You don't want to read a whole biography on her, but watching like a 20-minute video or listening to one is kind of cool. You get the pieces, and it links in again. It links in to that main tapestry of the history in a very similar sort of way. So that's kind of cool too. And the same thought can apply to games. I haven't seen many that do it. I haven't seen any that do it correctly. So one that tries to do it, and I've brought this up a few times, is Grand Sequel, which and in a similar fashion, Imperial Struggle tries to kind of do it, where there's this concept of like broad strokes and then detailing in for the wars, right? And what I think could do that same kind of picture, and I brought this up several times, if only I liked the actual combat system for it, is Imperium Romanum 2 could be placed within some kind of framework. And the framework that I think came the closest from what I remember, but you know, I haven't played in a long time, is History of the Roman Empire, which would like give you long periods of nothing exciting happening. So instead of trying to capture a continuous story of what's going on, the idea is kind of to create a framework to hold these little vignettes, the same way that that I'm enjoying in fiction, and also in this like snapshots of history that I can kind of fit as puzzle pieces into my already existing knowledge. I think there's something really cool about that kind of structure. Anyway, we're way off topic, as we always are. And of course, I wasn't clever enough to start loading the next scenario while I went into that monologue. So I get to play a little bit. We'll do the artillery. Game's up, but I may have to switch because I'm trying to find, I quit last, on Crusader Kings, I quit in the midst, because I made a bad decision on a war, and I'm like, I really should save before I do that. But I think what I loaded up, well, what I loaded up may be just before or just after the war, so I may have to reload, because I don't want to fight that war. It claimed I was stronger, and I'm not. Okay, so what do we got here that I wanted to talk about? Yeah, the artillery. So first of all, I fired here. Now, this line goes through this. I feel like this doesn't, so I'm okay, but I'm not absolutely certain. But I got a single hit on this. But the kind of important thing is I got an effective on this. I got cav here, French cav, well, dragoons, that is unable to retreat now. So that's going to cause big problems over here. And again, that may clear up a lot of the danger that the Allies are in over here. Because, I don't know, they may not have to defend quite as much. Who knows? Over here, I unlimbered a gun that I think all I did last turn was limbered it. Whatever. And I got a hit on the cav over here to prevent attacks. Actually, that was a stupid place to hit because I couldn't attack there. Should have gotten here. And this guy opened up and he got effective fire on whatever those are, Pomeranians? I don't know. I doubt it. I don't know what bell eel is. I can look it up over there. It tells me, you know, who owns what. I can, you know, some of these I can look at the letters and I can tell you, yeah, those are Italians, Germans, okay, but Washingtonians. I don't know. I doubt Westphalia would be WA. Württemberg would be WT. So I really don't know what some of these are. I've been thinking they're Bavarians, but that's over here. All right, I'm curious now. Let's peek. I'm also afraid of looking at what I got there. So we got nationalities somewhere. What do we got here? We got, let's look at Belle-Île. So, but most of Belle-Île is French. I don't know. I don't know how worthwhile this is to look at. Belle-Île infantry. Well, we don't have any nationalities on any of these. So I don't know. Who is that? That's Nice. Why is it PM? Piedmontese. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. What's the WA? The WA Isringham, Saint Sigismund, Saint Sigismund, Walloons. Okay. Not something, I don't know what I would call them, right? Like, what are they at this point? That's like, you know, Spanish Netherlands, but I guess Walloon is as good as anything. I just couldn't think of them. Oh boy, this battery's almost dead. I'm gonna have to swap. I left it here. You know, I went downstairs, so I wanted a break from playing Crusader Kings, and I keep thinking Medieval Lords because it kind of reminds me of it, but much prettier graphics-wise and everything, and more going on. You know, it's like Medieval Lords was a translation of Empires of the Middle Ages, almost exactly to a computer game, but one where all the countries were being played. Well, Crusader Kings is like a much more expanded version of that, getting into details everywhere and everything. But anyway, I ended up playing a bunch of Raid. Probably like an hour and a half, had lunch, all kind of stuff like that. And now I'm back up here. And I'm up here to play a little bit of this because I need to stretch my legs, but then I'll go back to that. And then I got to go do Raid. But I'm on the wing activation, so we'll start with that. And, you know, as usual, I'm making it so the French have to go first again. Because I haven't said it in several videos. I think the rule's wrong. By the rules, the Allies would have to go first because they have a better leader. That's just a disadvantage across the board. And it just doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem right that you would have more reactive capability with the lesser leader. The argument may be that you have, if you have the better leader, you have like some slight advantage on getting something to happen. But if you have to do it first anyway, I don't know. It astounds me, and I've been perfectly happy with doing it this way. It makes very little difference, to be honest. Looking, I think I screwed up, and again, this has to do with being able to assess all the information on here. This thing's got a transfer brigade on it from last turn. I don't think I actually did a transfer brigade. I'm going to move these guys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just going to put them back here because they should be in the support line over there, and I just didn't do that. And I mean, again, I'm feeling like the game system, the way the game presentation is coming at me, there's just too much for me to get it right, and so that I'm making more errors than I'm willing to accept, right? Like the game is hard enough. The game is hard enough to make things happen already, that I don't feel like my usual, I guess I forgot to move those guys. Well, you know, there's no command system in place, so that's fine. Or, there's even with the CWB stuff, I'm willing to like say, you know, they delayed for a bit. They took a break. I'm not willing to do that here because it just, and this doesn't make much difference either, but it just bothered me too much. We had some effective changes, mainly on the French side, actually. Committing Ingerhelm or whatever, Ingian, something like that to the front here. Fill in this gap, great. That leaves me with nothing in reserve though, not so great. I got Brill coming up to the front. That's gonna allow me to push Bligny over or whatever to the side a little bit to try to cover the gap with a support line. I didn't want to throw him in right away. As you can see, I mean, you know, I say, wow, there's a gaping hole in the French front. Yeah, but the Allies are still pretty disorganized in general, so I don't know that they have a front there, and we'll talk there. They tried. They didn't succeed to get anybody up into the front. I don't know who I tried to move up there. I tried to move this Rotson all the way back here, actually up into the support line, and I failed. And that's with Marlboro helping. But it's still only like a 5. Because reserve to support, there's no real bonus for that, except if there's less units in the support line. Okay, moving on. This guy was continuing from last turn. He's working his way over fine. And then we look over on the Allied side, and I moved wood that's still in process of doing what? I don't know. It looks like he made it. It looks like he made it. He went to that center line. He's not in the most perfect place, but he's not completely set up, but he made it over. But I took this other Ross Cav, actually Dragoons here, and I'm sending that all the way over here. That gives me a little bit of flexibility, in terms of like closer things if I end up in the support line or something like that. Yes, I already have a unit in reserve there. It also puts it under Punsyujin, which is allowed. He has a better bonus than most others. I could have put him over here. He'd have a better bonus there. I don't want. He's got enough things. He can only commit, he can only transfer or commit one brigade at a time. He's only got that many orders in each turn. And there are a lot of turns left. By getting him over here, if this is going to end up weak, which it's not really looking, or victorious, which it might, I might need those extra forces, but it also puts him close in range to cover here, just in case something weird happens and I get an opportunity, but more importantly over here. So I feel like I've got the most options by putting him all the way over here. He's got a long way to walk though, so it might take him a while. And that will get me to the brigade activations and the charges. The Allies have the most unit under charge. I moved Churchill also over to these Hurlvilles, whatever, over here. I can't read the counters, I'm sorry. And at this point, I think my assessment says I'm going to do Valar and try to move him to address ranks to get him formed up for another charge somewhere or whatever. He's just not in good position to do it. However, and if he leaves charge, or if he stays in charge, nobody's able to charge because they're all disordered. And this is going to have to go rejoin the unit using movement commands. So, whatever happens, I'm gonna have some kind of rank dressing happen on. One thing I thought about as I went, like in between the Canberra clips, I went to grab another pipe to load up. This is something I brought up when I was playing deck. My choice of pipes for playing board games has changed. Like back when I was in Phoenix, I was often using very small pipes, not tiny ones, but ones that had much less smoking capacity when I was playing games. And then when I did other things, I went for the larger ones, like working or whatever. Now, I'm almost never using those small ones. And that kind of disturbs me. Like I feel like I've got a couple of pipes that are in good shape that I'm not using at all, which is wrong to me. But I think the biggest point with that is wherever I am, I have to go too large a distance to get to my tobacco to reload my pipe. And that's why I stay away from the smaller ones. The reason in favor of them is I tend to put my pipe down while I'm playing. Like, I've got it in my mouth now because I lit it and everything. But I get kind of disturbed by having it in my mouth sometimes when I'm playing or when I'm talking on video or whatever, and I just put it down. And it's more of a waste with the bigger pipes. Switched over to the front. These guys didn't get theirs, so they formed up over there. Brings me to the next decision that I was going to make, which is this Montbrun. Montbrun. I can read this, I'm right over it. They're in charge in the support line, obviously out of conformance with the positional orders on here. And this is where I feel, again, the game has some difficulty in terms of assessing these things, but my interpretation is I don't have to do a damn thing with him. I can just leave him in charge. And then he has brigade integrity. This thing being in a firefight means it doesn't have to move. I believe brigade integrity is the highest of the orders. Oh wait, I was right there, activation priority. Compliant with the command display. Well, I don't think I can. I'm in a firefight here. And what it doesn't force me to do, by any means that I understand, is it doesn't force me to try to get him into dress ranks to back up and get out of that line. I think I'm allowed to stay in that firefight and lock that unit in. Which means, well, then this is just a pass. Is there anything I really want to do? Probably not. I'll just do this pass because whatever. I don't have a lot of units that are charging for the French right now. So an interesting situation, I guess I'll reset this. Scheckendorf here made an attack. He got an attack or retreat. And you might notice, hey, wait a minute, what about first fire? First fire only happens if it's in the front ranks. First fire would have been a disadvantage. Like, I don't want to face his first fire particularly, because he does a hit to me and then probably would do another in the combat results table, but as it is, all I got was a retreat off of it. So I fall back and I'm ordered. I'm filling that gap, or starting to fill that gap. No reason to do anything else, I guess, there. Binkir had an incredibly effective turn. I just stayed in charge, hit these two hexes, stayed with this firefight. Am I allowed to do that? Yeah, I think so. Only question is whether this unit in the back could have, should have, I don't know. I don't think it can. But what did I get? I hit this, forced a retreat. Retreat was impossible. It got a route effect, routed through these two stacks, disordering all the cav, taking the first fire away. And then this unit also was routed with a 1DR, which doesn't even affect Fink, and sent a unit flying back here. So all of Montbound has now lost its first fire. Is that what I wanted? I could have gone through here and caused another 2 hits on these units. 2 hits? I think it's still 2 hits because I'm going through it rather than... So here's the thing. The unit here on top could have retreated on its own because it's got an unprotected flank. So this guy's... Actually, it's got 2 unprotected flanks now, but... And it did before. So it's covering one of the flanks, but I think these guys run through both units, essentially. And whatever, you know. Again, that's a pretty minor impact to be handling the facings that I was postulating. I think the remainder of the charges were over here. Scheckendorf, I forgot to flip them over. Again, the mechanical things getting in the way. I did the charge. I didn't remember to expend him. Noyella here withdrew back and recovered. That's going to cause some problems for Webb moving forward. I don't know exactly, but again, I see the plane of advance. You know, I see the line I'm hitting here, so my plane is going to be parallel to that. So I can kind of curve through here, but I'm going to have to, it's going to be a pain to get him into position, which is one of the reasons Churchill left there. He went to command it to lead a charge, and he's like, you guys are nowhere near the battlefield. Like, nowhere near the front. I think that's the end of the charge units at that point, which means I get to the movement and on the French. Do I want to do it? Big question. Or do I want to play me some more video game. I think I'll play a little bit more on the video. Probably come back before raid. I really need a nap, but because again, I've been up since 4 in the morning. It's 12. It's 10 hours more than that now. 11 hours. And raid's gonna probably take me from now, say 3, until say at least like 8. I might nap before that, I don't know. Tuesday morning, it's about 6 now. I got up about an hour ago. Ate some raid, ate some breakfast. And ready to get started. I think we're on the movement orders here, right? Did the charges already? I had a weird fucking dream where Putin was trying to kill me. Really weird. I posted what I could have been on Facebook, but I think it's the first time he's been in one of my dreams, but I can't be sure. I'm feeling these kind of, yeah, I had fun with Crusader Kings, but I should really be going outside. It's been a stretch of really pretty days. Kind of the heat broke after, I think Friday, I don't know, maybe Saturday was hot, it's hard to tell. But it's not like cold or anything, but it's still getting up close, I don't know. 80 is okay. Above 80 starts to piss me off. It starts to feel too much like summer. And it's a little cooler here in general. So, I mean, just where I live, this particular, up on the hill and whatnot, I'm protected from that late sun and everything. So it doesn't get as hot right here. So when I go out for a walk, I often go outside and I'm like sweating and everything. And I'm like, wow, I didn't think it would be a hot day. Anyway, let me get started. I've got things loading up there. Probably wait at least a little while before I do anything outside, but I'm thinking along the lines of yard work or something. Things that makes the job easier in a game like Vietnam, although, Vietnam's a tough game to get your grasp on what you want to do. So what happens is the VC are like, yeah, I'm all set up. I don't have to do anything. So they pass, they let the US choose to do something, and the US has to look around the board and decide what is the most valuable, important place I can do something. What is the best thing to do at this moment is really the broad question. But you can kind of discern other options there. Obviously, throughout the whole board, the VC have said, it's okay if you don't want to do anything. Or it's okay if you do something, I'm set up for it. If you don't want to do anything, I got something I can do, but maybe I don't care to. The impetus of the attack is usually on the US, so their sandwiched position is pretty potent, it's a pretty potent advantage for the VC. They can almost assure that the US will take operations up to a point at least. But the point that I was trying to get to was that you can divide the board. First of all, it's divided into core. But you can say, here's an important sector. Let's focus on this for a little while. And you can do all your actions there. In this game, I don't feel like either player's in a position to be able to say. So the fact that the VC is saying, yeah, I don't need to do anything at the beginning of the turn. Or they do all their stuff that they need to do, not letting the US have a turn while they do that. And then they say, I don't need to do anything now. It's on you, bud. You start the actions. Means that the US can go to a specific sector and then you can concentrate on that section of the board and just, do all your fighting there. This doesn't work that way. Here, you've got balancing, competing principles all over the place, and each player is given, their singular opportunity to do something. And that's the more traditional pulsing. So, you know, you'll see that same kind of pulsing happening in Korean War. You know, but they're smaller games, so it doesn't really make it as big. I was going to say the Musket and Pike, the Men of Iron stuff, where you get a choice of which unit to move. You also get a choice in the Civil War, the Victory Games one. Looking for it right there. You get that same kind of pulsing, but you know, there's like 8 units that there's like 8 units you might want to do something with that have a real effect on things. There might be other sections of the game you want to explore and do stuff with, but there's like, you know, at most a couple little armies on the board and maybe 1 or 2 other things that are really glaring out at you. But here, I've got all these different brigades to consider. And once I get to the pass, you know, once I make a decision on pass, there's also sort of the, okay, what's the least valuable thing? You know, what's the thing that's least, that I can delay the most on, right? That it doesn't matter that I'm passing with. So, you know, the manifold that you have to, like, make your decision on is just so big. And so I end up coming up with rules of thumb, but rules of thumb that are not at all optimal. You know, like, go move left to right, stuff like that. Boy, I'm being chatty, and it's time for me to start the game and start this game too. Seeing anything so far? I've been piddling some units around, you know, like Webb trying to sneak through here, and I don't know, bringing Brill up to the front here. That leaves room for Bligny to be behind them, yet still covering the front, which is kind of one of the neat things you can try to do, is to have support units in the front. They're not going to have the right order numbers, but I actually picked up the camera not to say that, but to talk about Crusader Kings. I hate the fact, I'm playing it on Steam, right? Because there's advantages to having games online instead of, you know, if I download it, what am I going to do? Burn it into a couple of CDs or something like that? The installation, if I download it straight from Paradox. So, you know, I understand the distribution through the cloud, you know, Steam, GOG, Epic, all these different companies. But with Steam, you have to have the Steam launcher open to play. And that's fine, okay, you know, that's how they do their, you know, check to see if you actually own it and all that. GOG is much cooler, but there's a reason, like Paradox doesn't put their games through GOG, because they put their later games, their early games in through them, but they don't put their top games through it because they don't want to lose money because people are sharing their GOG. You know, GOG is basically like a non-right protected, you know, old style game when it comes down to it in a lot of ways, and it's kind of working on the honor method. Back when they said piracy is wrong, you know, everybody was passing copies around. But with Steam, not only do you have to have their launcher open, whatever, when you click on open the game, it doesn't get you, like, it doesn't just start loading the game. It loads the launcher and then gives you like a play and resume button. And if you just wanted to resume, and I probably actually did, that probably would be the best thing. Instead, I have to wait and I have to go back over and do something else. This is not a big deal. But again, it's a distraction from, you know, I know it's going to take a while to load each of these segments. I just should have hit the resume button. That would have been fine. That's where I wanted to get back to. But it would just make more sense to launch something with the functionality of the full game launcher, right? which could be presented within a web view. They could have a way of translating if need be. I don't know. Another thing that happens due to the wing divisions, and I don't know of a way you can get around this. Even with my flexible wing, I'm flexing. So this wouldn't be a problem without the flexible wings, for the most part. Well, it would be where the map is funky. The map was funky on Nearwind, and I don't know if there's anything funky here. But I create funky things when I create these flexible wings. And in this case, Turova and Montmorency are both in the front in their particular wings, but Turova is actually in a position that if we're taking this as the situation, I think I'm in violation. I'm going to not violate, and I'm going to stay back here. Because I moved forward. And what I'd like to do is extend the line, but I've got to create a gap before I can extend it, and that creates a moment for the enemy to get through. And I think that's actually an important facet here, is that anytime you do something to rearrange your lines, you're going to start creating issues. And the issues that you shouldn't be creating are ones which come close to or actually violate one of the standards of the linear warfare. So in this case, one of the standards is, hey, we're kind of all facing this way. I should not be directly in front of the Montmorency unit if we're both in the front line of our wings. That seems like it's wrong. But you can kind of fake it. For example, if Blenheim here is in the support line and is holding the front, in a way I'm getting the same effect that I was trying to accomplish over here. So I don't know. Again, I think the game is trying to express is actually impossible. But I think lots of things are impossible, and then, somebody manages to do them. But it's not something that I see a clear answer for. And it's one of the real problems, like with game design, is you come up with, most of a good idea, and then you come up with what the problems are, and you're like, yeah, that's not going to work. And you don't pursue it any further, whereas, people who are probably more accomplished designers may find the problem and say, yeah, okay, but it's a game, and we accept that it's not going to always be entirely accurate, and they push on and they accept certain compromises. Perfect, the enemy of the good, or stuff like that. Anyway, the lighting, it's kind of weird. There's always a bad time up here, but it feels like the sun has shifted a little that way from where it was when it was really horrible. And it's still bad. It's worse over on the computer. I don't know if I can play the computer, to be honest, but and again, it's like 15 minutes, so whatever I play here, it's going to be, but I think it hit its worst, and it wasn't as bad as it's been a couple days ago. It was showing badly enough, though, to show all the dust and beard hairs and shit like that all over the place. But now it's getting over the roof, and it's getting better. But I did want to point something out, and now I forgot what it was. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, Kotquen here. That sounds like a Dutch name. We're close to one. He's in a position where this gap is exposing his flank. I was unable to get address ranks, which would allow me to fall back into overglow and just say, screw it, I'll let this be open for a little while. But, my hope is that Blenheim can chase Scheckendorf or whatever back, and that we can form something between the excess units, there's, more than one unit in this stock and in both of these, that we can form a contiguous line again. Of course, there's no reserve anymore. Holding Oberglau means that I'm going to have this nasty triangle. But my options in the move form orders are, I could turn and face Scheckendorf, who is kind of the closer and maybe more dangerous threat because he's hitting a flank here. Or I could face the healthier web units, and neither one can go this turn. Scheckendorf's in dress ranks, Webb is in charge. So I viewed Webb as the more dangerous of the two opponents. This is more likely to fall back, more likely to be covered by this, so I continue my facing there. That's the last of the French units, actually. So with these being dragoons, the attacks in the least defensible terrain, actually. Again, I thought they were cav for some reason by the images. We got kind of an anomalous situation. So I got an attack through here, broke through this. I still haven't fired the attack here. Okay, great. And that disrupted that unit. This unit fired into that. Got a 1 AR. I've had this happen before. This is a disturbing situation. So the attacker took his hit, he's fine. The defender took his hit, it was the last hit of the unit, he routes. Now the attacker, by the rules, has to retreat. And the only place this is described is on this little chart, I believe. I don't think combat results are described in any more detail in the actual rules. Here, we got the 1 AR, 1 DR, and I think this actually might spell it out. Upon implementing, the attacker takes a casualty. Then if the attacker is not routed, the defender also takes a casualty. If the defender is not routed, then the attacker must retreat. Okay, so that's the one difference, is that here, they say both take a hit first. If not routed, then defender. Attacker retreat 1 hex. Common sense was right, and the rule book clarifies that. The chart doesn't. This guy would still advance. He has successfully taken the hex. So it's more like the combat system under the old school CWB and NBS versions 2 and earlier melee results, which had this sort of I fire, you fire, and then we, I don't know. It's just like the ordering is really important, because the fact that I broke the French unit, or German as the case may be, means that I do still get to advance. It's not the French unit breaks and I fall back in disorder, not knowing how to cope with the combat. Could that latter situation happen? Yeah, every now and then, but it would be far too common in this system for it to happen, and it's better that it never happens than it happens at all regularly. We got a near complete success. We destroyed every single unit of Gerder here. The swamps, so this is kind of weird. So like a large stream or whatever is +2 to the combat value. Heavy forest villager +2. But just in the marsh itself is only +1. It's still a nice defensive advantage. But it means that, like, it is possible to break things up, especially once you start chipping away. That means St. Sigmund's going to have to try to move up and take the defense there. And now this flank, which looked like it was stable forever, has now broken open. Is it just because the dragoons? I don't know. It may be more that I got some lucky rolls, because I only hit 1 dragoon there. I got a couple of lucky rolls against the Gerder unit, and I was able to reform my units, get some first fires up to the front, and really beat up probably too thick of a line, in that I had units in reserve behind in the same hex. It's better to deploy your reserve a hex behind. So I had to run through this and this unit on the end, which, you know what, to be honest, part of the reason I had 2 units there, I had them on Wilke as well, was this, yeah, I don't know how to deal with the river. But anyway, I'm not going to try to undo it to reflect that. It's like, yeah, again, you know, there's something that's ambiguous, left unstated, and you know, I treated it one way at one point, and now I'm treating it a different way, and it's not worth trying to fix. I think that's it for the Allied units. I mean, I got Wood here. What's Wood up to? Wood's there. He's fine. He's not doing any harm. Ferguson's here. I may move St. Paul up as well. And then I got to switch batteries. I'll probably play a little bit of Crusader Kings and then come back and do the dress ranks, guys. If I can. I mean, there's a lot of daylight there. I'm doing something in the game and it crashed. At least I think it did. I'm not absolutely certain. I'm going to give it some time and then go back and restart it or whatever. It was almost impossible to see. I tilted the screen so that it's, you know, not getting the direct sunlight. I remember this happening to me in Phoenix. But here, where that light's coming from, that may be hitting there for quite some time, as opposed to, you know, all the way back here, I hardly, you know, there's a lot of space between me and the window. And really, the sun has to be at a particular angle to hit this table and cause issues. And, you know, I mean, it's causing a little bit here, but for the most part, it's fine. But I may need to wait longer, which means, lucky you, I get to play a little bit more. Yeah, I don't think it's playing right now. And Leslie got to get into charge. I thought I was able to hit 3 of these the Earleville units. Now, the way it was set up, I actually got to hit only 2, but I got to hit 1 twice. And we got 1 knocked back here, but otherwise we made some advances. I don't know what that actually does for me. I was hoping to do some damage, but it's hard to do damage cav versus infantry. You got to get it into a big bonus, which really kind of requires flanking and stuff like that. Now, Marlborough was included, or sorry, Churchill was included in there, not Marlborough. I don't know what his brother's name is, but I know his last name. Which means I have to find the leadership rules. Usually they're at the back of things, but there we go. The rule book's small, so it's relatively easy to find things even without the index, but sometimes it's really useful. So, what do we get? We need a 9 for a leader casualty. And remember, I have a shitload of reserves for that division, say. I think I mentioned this before. There's a fuck up on this counter. St. Sigon's infantry on the back has Gerder. Usually not noticeable, but I was looking for St. Signon to figure out, hey, do I have him available? I don't. And I actually won't have him available. Wilke can continue the charge next turn before I get a chance to do anything. And I'm assuming the other side of the girder says St. Signon. Just a couple of these reverses and whatnot, as if, you know, an appropriate level of attention wasn't paid to the proofs that were sent to the printer. I'm looking for what the French want to do, and I'm kind of considering attempting a counterattack here, but that might just collapse my whole line in a horrible sort of way. And then this wing would be in danger. The wing that seemed so safe. Because I had some combat advantages, I went with an anyway with hot fuel. And, you know, I mean, he got a decent, he didn't get good results. He got his first fire off on this, which is part of what made it seem like a good idea. But now he routed, everybody's in this hex. They were all that far away. So yeah, now the French right is beginning to collapse completely. So Palma swings in to charge the infantry here. And he gets a good result, an A1R1. that forces this to retreat. It doesn't have anywhere to retreat. Rather than take a die roll on the cannot retreat table, which is a crapshoot, I choose to take a hit for standing in the village, and therefore I disorder the cav. I'm here. Why is that okay? Well, it's safe because I've got a dress ranks order, and I'll be able to recover that damage. So I hold the village no matter what. The cav attack was probably foolish, no, until that dress ranks was fired off. I see what's happening with the sun. So the sun is shifting this way across the sky. Now, earlier, what that meant was that when I was here at another time, it had shifted further in this direction while it was still lower on the horizon. So it hit right here. And now it doesn't reach this position where it would slice across the map until it's high enough in the sky that it can't shine on here. So, you know, those days when I was unable to play because it was too sunny right here, that's a really, really rare occurrence, apparently. There's just going to be a few days every year where there's like 15 minutes of hell here. That one's cleaned up to the point where the screen is completely out of the sun now. So, unfortunately, I think probably my autosave is invalid, but I probably did a save just before it. I hope I did. I may have started relying on the autosave, but I know the game sometimes presents invalid saves to me. Caught myself trying to cheat. Hess Castle here is in dress ranks. It's sitting here, it's all healthy. It's got Leslie next to it. I'd love to turn and charge, but I got a problem. Villar here is on the same line as I am, essentially. May even be behind, depending on how you want to count things. And I'm in the support there in the front. Otherwise, the Earl of Ville is also front line, and I'm definitely on the same line as them. So I'm going to have to actually pull those back, which means I may not want to, well, fuck it, I'll activate them. So I would have gotten into March instead of dress ranks, or instead of charge, and just pull back. But this is the kind of crap that you have to face in this game. And those guys, they don't just back up when they're under march. They do a 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's essentially the same. And wow, this gun is just sitting out there exposed. How about that? It doesn't do all that much. I think it's actually safe, but we'll see. And if I could only have been more patient with Hess Homburg. Massenbach went next, got into a charge, hit Villar, routed them, and now there wouldn't be a problem, I guess. I don't know. No, there would still have been a problem from de Hurleville, so I wouldn't be able to go into charge no matter what, as these come smashing through. And that was something I warned you about, I think, in the previous video, or maybe just earlier in this one, that Villar had gotten themselves in a position where, you know, on a lucky command roll by the French, they don't have much chance, just about 30%, whatever. They could get lit up by this unit. But now this unit's in play, who knows? Maybe it can get lit up, right? This is too far, right? Who is that? That's this guy. He's already gone, so he can't move up and then hope to get himself into charge. Yeah. Allies are actually running out of options of units in dress ranks, so I activated this Belka unit, didn't do anything with it, it doesn't have any recovery possible. I don't want to charge in the position it is. I don't particularly want to turn this way. I don't know. See, I got both flanks covered this way. I don't think it makes a difference. I think I'm in more danger. Mercy could come out and do something nasty to me. But I'm basically out of units that I want to flip over. Well, no, let me just flip him. Because he's confusing me now. I had to do that with some others too. But I think I've got just these two. Oh, Bergdorf forgot to go. I would have done something like this with him. Did I just follow him? No, it's Biebendorf who forgot to go. Or something like that. Who is this down here? Beberdorf. That's these guys, right? They look white, which is the problem. And I don't know. Yeah, I would have done this with them. Like, they should look gray to match the units. I find that really disturbing. And again, maybe there's hey, this is Danish units under an Austrian commander or something like that is why they're trying to apply what they do. But all the units are gray, and so it's really, really annoying to try to find, this unit if that's the color schemes they use. I really think the color schemes ought to be utilized to improve play capability. Sure, every now and then I look at something and I'm like, wow, they put the French in blue, they should be in white uniforms, so the counters should be white. Well, obviously that wouldn't work with the base color lines. And they've got, I think the uniform color is the stripe anyway, so what the hell? Why do they need the different colors? Well, they've got the nationality color as well. But yeah, I don't know how big a deal that is, but I gotta tell you, it makes a big deal if the color. First of all, units of the same formation of the same brigade should, for the most part, look the same, so that you don't end up splitting them off. So, like, and this is something that's throughout the game. Because they're trying to indicate nationality by color. Nationality is already indicated on these counters with the 2-letter code in the left-hand corner. So leave that alone. Unimportant. You want to do the uniform color for the stripe? It's not great, but it's not as disruptive as making the color of the actual counters within a given unit change between them. It sounds like I can play, but I can't yet. So I'm gonna have to swap batteries. What just happened? What did I do? I did this, but that was a fix. I'm on the French because Bielke just went, and then I noticed, oh, these guys should have moved. And again, I'm having enough confusion with this game that I'm not willing to say just let errors lie where they are. And as I plugged in my little battery charger thing there, I was worried, this might trigger me into another damn, tantrum or whatever. And I thought about something interesting. It's little shit like that throws me into tantrums. The really big stuff, I don't take it well by any means. Maybe throws me into a depression. Sometimes puts me in a mood where maybe tantrums are going to be more likely or whatever. But they're never the trigger, right? I mean, like, they're just more the underlying problem. So, like, I don't know. It's always little things like not being able to install the game in time or quickly enough, not being able to get my battery to charge, stuff like that. That's always the stuff that sends me over the edge. And, it's not like, I don't know. Yeah. And I think that's probably true for everyone. the big things that are boiling up, the real problems that aren't being spoken of, like in a relationship or something, they're never what causes the argument. It's always some stupid little piece of problem. You know, something like, you know, somebody drops a plate or is just doing something wrong, and it's just like, that's the straw that breaks it. And it's a similar kind of thing for me for my meltdowns. It's got to be a tiny little thing. It's not, you know, like, I am thinking about, like, yeah, I collapsed basically when I discovered my wife's body. But one, I more or less suspected very heavily that she was dead by that point. Like, all morning, all day, I had been worried that she had died because I hadn't heard her, and I have thoughts along those kind of lines all the time. And then, you know, I'm like afraid to go down there and do anything. And finally, I'm like, after work and whatnot, I finally just go down there and bang on her door. And finally, you know, open it up and found her. I don't know what my reaction really was. It was just like, just sort of this big, oh shit, you know? And how do I get a hold of the police and whatnot for this? Because I don't have my own phone. I guess I could have used Skype to call, but I knew 911 doesn't work over that, so I had to go across the street. Whatever. All right. Back to this, I guess. Just, you know, actually speaking about these things again, it just brings it all back, you know. I don't know, whatever I do that seals it all off, my addictions and whatnot. And honestly, not speaking about it, but going for walks and talking in my head and whatever. You know, it's like I don't have people I can talk to, right? The closest I came to it, which felt a lot worse in terms of pains and whatnot, was when her, you know, old school friend contacted me, and that I basically spent, you know, most of the night just chatting online, you know, via text, not actually talking on a phone or anything. But I think verbalizing makes it harder in a different sort of way. Like, I think I would have totally broken down if we had to talk on the phone. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like I get to play at least. All right, I'm gonna stop for a while because I'm not really in a state right now. Strength kind of implies, for the most part, just recovering units. Bligny here tried to drop into March to get himself into a better position. Instead, he has to move more slowly. Ballancourt needed to recover. Just stuff like that happening. I think I've caught them all, which means we complete the route movement and then the resets. Anyway, I started a war. So in my Crusader Kings, I'm playing the Irish tutorial scenario, and I'm maybe 100 years in at this point. And it didn't go well. I still have trouble reading the interface to be able to tell what kind of power I have. Like, it claimed I had more power than the enemy in terms of military might, but then when I raised my armies, I didn't. I called an ally and I did then, but leadership changed. I wouldn't have declared war had I known that the whole situation, and maybe it was counting in my strength, my ally as well, but, you know, my proposed opponent is a lot fucking stronger than I am when it comes down to it. He's also in Ireland. We have it kind of split in half, but he's got my realm split in half. I'm kind of, I don't know if you can see this. I'm kind of the darker green. He's the pale blue there. but I have the Kingdom of Scotland as an ally. And possibly I'm heir to the Kingdom of Scotland, but I can't figure it out because in the old Crusader King, the first one, I could figure out who was going to inherit what. But in this one, there's more and more succession laws, and it's like, I just never seem to be able to arrange to create a good dynasty out of it, which may be appropriate, especially given how early in the game I'm playing. I'm playing around the Crusades era. But the big nation states, the big conglomerations like the Habsburgs hadn't happened yet. And that's kind of important because I think those were actually impossible under some of the succession laws. But it's hard to, like, you know, it's hard to judge what you're going to get with some of these more dark age and early medieval societies. All right, so we push into the 520 turn. Give you the what's happened so far. And honestly, you know, the what happened so far is if you just tied them together, they would be how I used to present these games more. And I would be happy with doing that, I think. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of need to go into more detail because I feel the need to chat about other shit as well. So my videos may have become less useful because of what I need them for. All right, so what do we got? Something like stasis here. Yeah, Fink gained some ground, but it's not really holding together all that impressive. Like, they're not really pushing. And we've got this extra brigade coming in over here. So this whole line looks stronger, but there's no reserves anymore, right? Whereas the Allies have reserves over here. Over here, we had the big breakthrough finally happened. Wilke, well, maybe because I figured out that those were dragoons. Again, the counter's getting in my way. But that's a big opening here. This could be a huge danger where this strong point just becomes like a slaughterhouse if it gets surrounded and attacked from multiple ranges where retreats are no longer possible, whatever. It's still stronger than like if you were out in the open in a cluster like that. But the thing is, you wouldn't be in that position. Of course, I could give some ground, fall back and try to connect up to wherever St. Sigurd ends up at, or St. Sigund ends up at. Over here, this is the most chaotic section. This had been before. This has become more chaotic with still an opening here that the Allies are punching through. This is beginning to look weak, but the Allied position is somewhat disorganized, and they have to form up and get into something that can actually operate under the linear rules without like constantly being in violation and units like trying to march back to get into position, which feels kind of right, but it's a pain in the ass to handle. I caught myself, I fucked up with these routes, and now here's the thing. I had pushed them back. The routers would have crossed them and taken away their first fire. I was almost willing to accept that, but the thing is, the only real reason they ran back was trying to figure out whether or not I was legitimately in a location. I would rather have them forward. I didn't want them back there. I thought I had to push them back. I'm convinced now I didn't, that shifting into this kind of formation or location would have been fine. So I'm not giving them the route through there. That would have made this stronger for the French, but I feel like a lot of the mistakes that I've made have benefited the French. For example, those dragoons, if thinking that those were cav was what are mounted dragoons essentially, was what was preventing this line from collapsing, things would have broken earlier, I think, because there would have been problems on this front, and I couldn't have transferred everything over into here and gotten the successes, or held even, right? I kind of needed those attacks, those counterattacks, to get to get any kind of like stasis because of the damn cav in front of me everywhere, which caused real problems. An hour and 20 minutes left to go game time. Can the Allies break the French in that time? I don't know. Amazing getting up and being awake during most of the daylight. I don't know if I'm going to manage, to stay awake, but I have been. It's like 10 in the morning right now. I feel like I've, had more than a full day already of my normal full days, for whatever reason that is. A lot of it's that I'm not, pinned to my computer. But there's just something nice about daylight, I've always thought of myself as mostly nocturnal, and most of my life I usually am. But I don't know. And it's not like I'm taking advantage of it by going for a walk or anything like that, right? Like, I haven't done anything useful. I went out and brought the garbage down. That's it. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But, I've just grown so, I don't know, so unable to do anything. Anyhow, fired off my artillery. Started off really effective down here. Effective. And then continued, hey, I got this, but I missed this one. I got this, but it's not enough. This isn't going to do much. I could have put one in front of me, but again, I don't know how effective that's going to be. If he gets into charge here, he can take out my gun, which, at least by the way I'm influencing. In fact, he must. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if he's allowed to, though. He's back here. That's Bligny and Brule. Brule's in the front, so Bligny's not allowed to charge, as far as I can tell, because he's ahead of... right? Unless, well, I'm at that point where I get to make those decisions. Okay, let's see what it all amounts to. Trying to see if I did anything successfully with the French. I don't think they got any successful transfers. Here, I'm moving this cav up to cover here. I don't know how valuable that is. It can't really do much against the infantry, but I'm worried about the gap, and at least it can like close that off a little bit. This brigade's still transferring. That's like wood or something like that, way over here, making this long march across, which is fine because I need more troops maybe in one of these areas. I don't know. Up here, Hesse-Homburg is finally got a command to move up to the front line. I still only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my 6 there, but I overpower the French in terms of how many frontline units I have. It's very obvious the French can't hold the line forever. Luckily, the game ends at a certain point, and if they hold the battlefield till that point, they can march away to some kind of safety and lick their wounds. And there didn't tend to be big pursuit type situations here. So if you consider like Napoleonic era, I'm not so sure about 7 Years' War. I think there were more pursuit functionality happening in the 7 Years' War, but I can't be certain. But certainly by the Napoleonic Wars, forces were able to get up and move against their enemy relatively quickly. This feels more, when I look at like the campaigns of Marlborough game and compare it, it feels more like American Civil War in terms of like how easy it was to get your armies moving to try to get a decisive result out of a successful battle. Which is to say, it didn't generally happen. So, you got that kind of situation if you think about the Civil War game over there that I've pointed out before, which so far for me is the gold standard. I know some people like the GMT game. They think it's a slight improvement on it. I've seen some things in it that, it doesn't cover the things that I'm most disturbed about that game. And the other, whatever else there is, I don't really know that I particularly want any kind of improvements. I'm much more worried about certain other aspects having to do with leadership and command, which I think games like Lincoln's War, for all that I objected to it, right, may actually do a better job of, even though other aspects, like the original rule book being useless, didn't really please me. Over here, I don't think anybody really tried. Well, yeah, the French did try something. The Allies, I don't think, did. They don't have much. They don't have room for anything else. And I didn't want to, like, commit Ferguson over here or anything like that. I want him on the front line or I want him ready to replace. Oh no, I did try something. I tried to swap him for this cav unit here because that cav unit can't really continue to launch attacks as things stand. But that means we go to the charges and who has the most? We got 3 for the French. We probably have more for the Allies. 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So the Allies are going to get the start here for whatever value that is. So it's kind of screwed up here because these guys are damaged. Do I want to press forward with them, or do I want to try to recover? And I'm not sure. I really don't know. Like, I can press forward with no problem at all. Whether I want to if I want to recover, I may not be able to. But I'm a little worried that, like, yeah, I'm so beaten up I probably should recover. I don't know. On the other hand, if they break, I've got another brigade to bring in that's fresh and that should be able to smash through that. This is not where the victory is going to be, though, I think, because Blenheim it's too well defended. I'm not going to be able to rout everything in Blenheim in the course of, what amounts to really 1 more hour of play. Funny, since my attention was on this at the end, speaking about it, I just went and did it, rather than trying to hunt through and see, do I have an advantage? Is there something I want to do here? Well, it's Ansley versus Scherbendorf, and they're not really near each other. So, I get the names, of course, wrong. And Leslie, I don't know. For that one, I look over here, and, the French are going to get a possible advantage off this. It's Montbron against Fink. Again, they're not really near each other, are they? Montbron is here, Fink is here. Montbron's in charge, but doesn't have an opening. So he's not going to do shit, right? It's just a question of, I don't know, what he's doing in the background here. Well, I was wrong. I've got this tied down. I am allowed to stay in charge. These guys are in firefight, so that nothing would happen. Not really sure there's anything that I want to do. I kind of like the idea of tying him down, because then this can't advance. And no matter what, I want to pin Fink down as much as possible, even if I'm going to try to win this flank, which I don't think I'm really going to do. And since I was talking about him last, Montbrun ends up getting into dress ranks because of the defensive advantages for it, but isn't breaking the firefight. They don't have to. And then Fink continues their charge because I had an advantage here, scared off some cav. That's not legal. I gotta check that cav for the ignore retreat. So that's a -3 to the die roll. He actually just stayed here. He couldn't retreat because his flanks are both secured. So the other cav is behind him and blocking him. This unit managed to trade shots, and so both units are damaged. But that doesn't really help me because Mercy's in dress ranks. I need to get a retreat for something good to happen, and I just don't think there was anything good that could happen. to be honest. I was on the -1 table. A 1DR would have put it to the, hey, get out of that hex. That there was a 1 in 10 chance that I could get something that was decent. It was a get out of that hex and take a point of damage, or just die. You know, that would be valuable, but that's very little. Firefight doesn't really help me, but I'm already pinned somewhere, so then, you know, I got other options. The ARs, those would be okay actually. They don't really hurt me either. So yeah, that puts me back on the French. Feeling hungry. I had an omelet. First time I've made an omelet in a while where it didn't get screwed up. Like the problem is I have no stick pans, right? But these things just get damaged over time, and so little sticky points happen on them, and the omelet, you know, doesn't necessarily come out cleanly in them, or flip cleanly or whatever. And I don't know, this time I must have gotten the butter spread properly or something. I have no idea, but the last, or maybe I've just had more practice, but I haven't been making many recently, so. The interesting things we discuss here. I don't have much left, and Leslie and Mossenbach. Mossenbach charged into the Hesse castles and pushed them forward. They're no longer in dress ranks, so that may cause issues. I don't know which way they want to go. I should still have Allied unit under charge, though. I have Scheckendorf. That's it. Foolishly, I continued to charge with Scheckendorf here, hitting the flank of this. Not pulling him back, I didn't have to. He ends up not even crossing the wing boundaries if I didn't want to put some other kind of strip there to indicate something. This isn't a bad choice in a vacuum, but I've got this exposed rear here to Bligny. I probably should have tried to get out of the charge just because, but again, I don't know. I have this violent streak in me, and when I see an open flank, I want to hit it. Well, this is why Terrible Swift Sword in particular ended up really problematic. I remember it turning into these chaotic fights that felt, in part because there were these like motorcycle units at Gettysburg. The command headquarters in that, you were able to like do really crazy shit with them, and they allowed you to like do some stuff that felt more like musket and pike cavalry swirling around. Sure, they're mounted, but they were able to fire with like one rifle, and just really, really potent for what they were. I'm hoping 3 Days of Gettysburg, which I also have, correct some of that. But I'll probably never get to playing that, although I may end up getting to play TSS, simply because, I don't know, you know, nostalgia or whatever. It was my first really big game, like more than 2 maps. A couple of final units, Anlezi and Palma. Anlezi and Palma both changed from charge to dress ranks. For Anlezi, I don't know if it was a wise idea. I pulled him back almost into connection. He's not going to be ready for a charge again, and de Herleville can throw him, you know, back again if they want to. Of course, Brull's infantry does provide some sort of, hey, you got to attack me first, which will force this forward. But the unit beneath can attack. All kind of weird shit can happen out of this. So we'll see. What are they doing? They are in dress ranks, so they're not going to be able to do anything without changing orders. And Palma, well, he recovered. He is probably ideally going to turn around, get back, try to get a range for a momentum charge or something. have forgotten to throw the momentum value in. That is going to put me on the French for movement. And yeah, I think I'm going to try to make something food-wise. I don't know what. Oh, I made my food just a couple of wraps. I thought about a pizza, but seemed like too long a wait and too much food at this time. However, I am kind of feeling I don't know, the weight of existence, like being not numb for a little bit of time is always painful. Let's get some things moving. And we open things off with Brule launching an attack, took out a gun. Artillery hit here, ended up routing first fire, battalion guns or brigade guns. Knocked a unit back, didn't cause any collateral damage because an open wing, so the unit behind it was defending the flank. And also didn't break the Hurleville or whatever unit, which had a bonus because of Churchill there, and I get a roll for Churchill. Oh, I got an artillery hit on him. I just did. I think that all counts as one die roll for the attack as a whole instead of two. But we don't kill him, so. Or injure him or anything. So, you know, the effect is essentially nothing because there's a whole pile of leaders under there. Some of them actually get better. The follow-up is Hesse Homburg, which is just in March. I don't know if he's made it to the front yet. I don't think so. Did I cheat? See, if I don't think so the Earleville is at the front, so I was at the front, and I was also adjacent to a unit, so I think I can do this, even though Erlock is way out of line where he is. So that's kind of the issue. I wasn't under charge orders, which made what I did illegal anyway. Oh, I think I had to check a charge. All right, let's try to see if I can get under charge, in which case I could do what I did. Yes. Let's put that there. So that solves the issue. The issue being, I don't know. This was a closer target than this, so under charge I had to hit it. But I ended up breaking whoever the hell the cav was. I can't remember now. Massenbach, I think. One of the units there. And this is kind of the thing. Whenever you can hit a unit and destroy one of the counters on the board, you got a chance of breaking the whole brigade and opening up the line heavily. Just the way the formations can route. Sure, you might not, but with a smaller, lower morale unit, a smaller or lower morale, Massenbach wasn't a bad morale for a three-step unit. Whereas like the Hurleville is like a 7 morale for a 5-step unit, but doing one step doesn't give you much chance of breaking the whole unit. Doing one step to a medium or smaller sized unit generally gives you a pretty good shot. And we ended up doing that, and you know, that opens things up in a pretty impressive sort of way. It's one of the things where it's like, there's a temptation, or perhaps more than a temptation, there's value to just doing attacks that might break a unit for the simple, especially if you're at little or no risk to yourself. Anyway, Hesse Homburg got themselves together. There, you know, 50-50 chance they stay around if you destroy one of them. And there's only 2 of them total, so that's kind of cool. Well, I didn't want to get them into dress ranks. I really wanted to make those attacks, and I think I can justify it as long as I was under charge. charge. I don't think I could justify it under March, because under March, he would have had to do something to try and avoid being in violation here. Whereas under charge, he has to attack stuff so he can avoid the violation problem. This is annoying. So these are both commanded by Bronkendorf and Biebendorf. Similar names. It looked like the same unit to me, and I'm kind of like, oh my god, this is a huge unit, what the hell? No, but it's infantry and cav, so it's different. And they both have activations available. I'm trying to decide if that's the best thing I want to do. I may have other options. Wood is of interest here. There's no timing issues with that. The problem with Wood is, if he's not in charge, there's no way he can keep going in front of Noyelle here. I mean, I can't justify marching up, can I? I don't know. So here's the thing. Where is overlap? Overlap is this way, right? So if I stay here, I think I'm okay, actually. Do I want to charge? Not terribly. So let us just march. Fuck. 1, 2, 3, like that. Scheckendorf, I don't know what he's up to. I think he was facing up this way, to tell you the truth. Doesn't matter. That's not Scheckendorf. That's Schellenberg or Schulenberg, something like that. Yeah. All right, so we'll move Wood without charging, because I'd rather not charge. And you can see, I've crossed the line here. Is that terrible? I don't know. I mean, if I can't attack it with infantry, if the only thing I can use is this cav to attack across the river into the village, yeah, that's just not going to happen. So again, consider this an extension. I'm taking this hex as part of my wing. I'm not going to mark it for now, because I'd have to go down and get another color. Taking all their movement actions, forming up a line over here. I don't know what else. Eminville just saying, I can't really do anything. And that's fine. Yeah. Row got themselves into dress ranks, which doesn't press the issue. I was considering trying to attack, because this situation maybe I could cause issues, but I can't really cause anything. They can retreat just fine. So might as well make sure I don't break. But you know, I got these 2 infantry brigades waiting to do something up here, and they can't really do anything right now. That was the last of the French movement commands, so I'm just doing whatever I want to with the Allies now, and then we'll get to French dress ranks. A couple more shifts around. One thing that kind of worries me is Wood back here, but he's online with these. He's part of the same reserve. This guy's not. He's just running all the way over there. Part of the same reserve, but as long as I don't cross over that line into, say, that hex, I'm okay. And he's still holding this little gap in the line here. One thing that can happen that I consider a really anomalous situation, we saw it earlier, was, say, Wittenborf or whatever, Wittinghoff, could have a unit here and Rautzow here, and this would not be behind Wittendorf, obviously, but also it is directly in line with him, so it's allowed to be there. If it's more than a 2-unit brigade, you can't do that, but I would cause a no conflict situation, which feels very wrong, where this unit is just sitting back here completely completely screened by friendly troops, but in the same line as those troops, and that That feels incongruous, but what do you do? You know? All right, now it's time to figure out, and there's a whole lot of units in dress ranks, so this is going to take a while. Maybe I want a break. We put this on here, and that'll tell me what I'm doing. A lot of why I want to take a break, when I say the weight of the world, I also kind of mean just, you know, I'm tired, I'm sleepy. But playing computer games, I can do that while I'm sleepy. It's hard to either play a board game or even like go out and play around, you know, with my weed whacker or something, which I thought about doing. Playing some CK, there's kind of a pretty screen as it's loading or whatever there. Parents with a newborn or whatever. It was, I don't know, acting like there's a memory leak or something. So I'm going to try to restart the scenario that I'm, you know, saved and load it again. See if that helps. One of the problems is when I get this tired, I start getting frustrated. But I did start doing this. I've got some tea going back there as well. But I opened up with the Bell Eel unit, and I was unable to get it into a march. I'm actually left with a weird situation, which is I don't think I can attack this artillery, period, the end. And I can't just walk into it or anything. Certainly in dress ranks, which is what I'm stuck at over there, I cannot. But even if I had gotten into march, it's not an infantry. See, this is the problem. The rules under which you're allowed to attack artillery don't exist. Right? This is one of the things that were left out. I feel like if I'm in move, especially if the damn thing's firing at me, I should be able to hit it. But I don't know, because again, anything less than charge kind of indicates you're not doing forward movement against the enemy, right? The only time you're allowed to attack the enemy when you're not in charge orders is if they're charging and you're under move, which just allows you to like react essentially. You know, why you can't do it under dress ranks, I can see arguments for that, but whatever. You know, it's just like I don't understand enough about the philosophy behind what's going on. I've been able to project a lot of things, but I'm left with a lot of kind of gaps in what, you know, the designer intended and whatever. A lot of it makes sense, a lot of it doesn't. And there's kind of the, you know, do I take the designer at his word with a rule book that's obviously incomplete and not, you know, has serious problems with it? Even if the rule book was right, would I take the designer at his word when I see things that are problematic? Like, you know, I don't know. I mean, if there was a specific exclusion from launching attacks on artillery under certain conditions, fine. It's just not clear when you're allowed to, right? Like, there's nothing to indicate when you can and when you can't in terms of orders and stuff like that. There's one thing that seems to say that you can attack artillery. There's just no rules as to when you're allowed to. Anyway, I think we've been over this ground before, but whatever. De Hurleville, under Churchill. Fuck, I forgot those +1s, damn it. Oh well. Doesn't kill him. Tries to push forward, and they succeed in knocking some cav back and actually pushing this unit back, but they get shoved back here. You can see now they're disassociated because they got into charge. The fight is really getting chaotic in here and not feeling at all like linear combat at this point. My desire is to cover something with Bligny here. They're not going to work very well because, like, I had thoughts about smacking into the back of this and everything. Brill goes back to here. This is a distance of 2. This is a distance of 2. I got to fall back as far as I'm concerned. So that's one unit that's not going to be able. They're in violation right now, so they can't go into charge. like seeing, you know, what the counters look like, trying to remember the sort of Byzantine mechanisms that are in play in this game are difficult. Now the mechanisms, at least I mean, I understand why the visuals are what they are, and I understand why the rules are what they are. They're both just hard to internalize, is, you know, in terms of being able to understand either what you're seeing or how you can do, what things you can do and how you can do them. I start to handle the dress ranks over here. I'm noticing, again, something that I've said a couple of times. Cav basically can't do anything when there's formed infantry in line waiting for him. So all this weight that I've been putting in here of Cav, only this infantry can really break things open and start an issue. And unfortunately that infantry is facing the village, so I may just have to launch against the village in order to have any chance of doing anything on that wing. And that, you know, that means I'm not going to break them on this wing, right? Because I got too much cav here and no infantry, basically. So where do I break them? Well, this unlikely because of the town. This unlikely because of the town. This almost impossible. So that leaves me only the center. Only this Hochstadt Plains or whatever it's called. Hey, I got it right. That's the only place that I can break the French. I think the Allies have lost this battle. Like, they're going to get an indecisive result, which is no good for them. Anyway. Unless the French do something stupid, right? Which they might. Got something kind of impressive here. This Bielki or Blelki, I'm not sure. I can't tell if that's an I or an L. Yeah, like, it's an I, Bielki. Managed to charge and took 2 of these town hexes, destroyed a Mercy unit, which routed through Mount Brun here, not Mount Baum. And another one had to fall back or be destroyed itself. That's beginning to throw that line into a shaky position, isn't it? But Mercy did not beg for mercy. They're still on the board. So, yeah. But now they can try to recover. They're in a dress ranks position, but they got a problem. Except I stole this artillery hit. So I'm not in a problem. I can recover. Actually, essentially the end of the line. I have a couple of French units left in dress ranks. This guy, flipped him over. This guy, who aren't going to do a damn thing. You can see I've solidified this line here, making it even more unlikely that the Allies are going to break through. But the movement here, that's probably not going to succeed over the amount of time things will take. And there's too much here, man. There's just too much there to wipe it all out. So again, yeah, I think we're going to come up with a French victory here. It's time to move the routers and clean up a little, and then yeah. So that pushes us to the 5:40 turn, and this is actually the 1 hour mark because it's at the end of. It's in 3 more turns, right? This turn and 2 more when the game will end. As opposed to last turn being the 1 hour mark. It felt like it because it ends at 6:40, but this is 6:40 or 5:40 right now. So what do we got? We got a little bit of movement over here. Probably not enough. A fairly solid French line just shooting from the woods to the river that I don't think is going to be able to be budged. Some chaos over here. If I could this is actually an interesting place. If I could hit these and break them up and break up Claire and hit this, that would break Oberglau. I gotta take the strong point though, you know, and yeah, it's kind of exposed. It's dangling, you know, off there. It might happen. Coming back to the other side over here, yeah, there was some movement, but not much. We saw the big break last turn. Well, we're seeing the advance forward, but it looks like that's solid enough to hold, probably. And then we get over to the main event, the Hochstadt Plains, and it's still chaotic. I don't even know which side has the advantage. I mean, obviously the Allies do because they have the numbers, the sheer numbers. These are almost over into Oberglau at this point. I could actually shift them in there with an order, but Webb would be actually a better choice to move into there. And it's, you know, I'm just saying you should be able to hit Oberglau from 3 angles, whatever, and to hell with whatever the wing lines are. Those wing lines are there to represent the actuality of the historical battle, not all the possibilities that would have been open, and this situation, I think, calls for others. And again, that's why I have these dividers. But then over here, we got what looks like kind of an okay French line sort of forming up. These were supposed to extend it. It was supposed to connect. That's been kind of forced apart. Brill is spread out all over the place, but then again, so is de Hurleville. He's not connected. I don't know what this thing did. He must have hit something and bounced off of it. I got some artillery up here that's just like off on its own firing, which will get a hit next turn, or a shot next turn at close range. And it's been getting them. The question is, hey, can I pin Belle-Île down to prevent him from taking it? Right now, the situation very much looks like the French are going to be able to hold out long enough to be able to disengage, you know, in an orderly fashion at the end of the day, and, you know, keep Marlborough down here in the Bavarian area. Okay. I'm going to go back, play some Crusader Kings, because it looks like my Irish are ready to be played. They have been for a while. Decision was made for me. So I reloaded the game. It's still bleeding slow. So, you know, I could have exited the desktop to begin with. Right now, I'm just like, yeah, you know what? I think it's time for me to just take a nap. You know, I am really tired, and I would rather snooze for an hour or two than undergo frustration with a game that just is like, and now it's saving again. Then try to deal with a situation. Obviously, the game can't handle being left idle, or I don't know. I played it for periods as long as I've left it idle today. So it's not just playing, but being left idle, it seems to cause some kind of issue. And I don't know what that is or what's up. I'm also too tired to pump into another turn of this, much as I'd like to get through it, to get to the next thing. But yeah, still unable to sleep. I closed my eyes and listened to news stuff for, I don't know, a good half hour or so, and decided, yeah, this just isn't working. I'm not going to fall asleep. So I made myself a hot dog, and I'm back up here starting this up. I hate Windows 10. Apparently, I got to click on something. Apparently, whatever was going on ended up slowing the whole stamp system down. Did the artillery fire in the meanwhile, and then I'm going to load the game up and do a little bit more. We got a hit over here. These guys fired. One over here didn't get one. Hit over here, nothing too exciting. Kind of running low on brigade guns, but we got a couple left that haven't been fired yet as well, which, you know, they're one-shot pops, but whatever. We'll get over here. Right, orders changes. What do we got? Well, the French managed to get Bligny to move up forward into here. That leaves only Eminville uncommitted out of the support line. If that whole support line goes, I get to move Montreux up for free into the support line, which is kind of a cool function or feature or whatever. And because you can't jump from reserve all the way up to the front, you can jump from, as far as I can tell again, let's see how that's worded. Yeah, you can transfer a brigade and commit it. So you can move it to a different wing and to a different line in that wing, you know, by making 2 rolls essentially. But what you can't do is you can't jump and say, I want these guys to just pass through the support line and throw them to the front because I need infantry and all I got is cav in the support or something like that. And that's actually going to be something that comes up in a moment. Well, let's take care of it now. The Allies, this was the last thing they checked actually, are pushing Ratzowen. Now I would like to get him in the front, but I've got to move him forward. And then there was a big question of which side of airlock I wanted him on. It looks to me like, first of all, Hesse-Homburg's kind of a problem here. I've got plenty of cav here, although it's not going to budge the infantry here or here. But it's what it is. I decided to push him between Alark, or Arak, or something like that, Arak, and Erbach into here. Now he could still swing around into a really uncomfortable seeming position, but whatever. My guess is that my best chance of winning right now is Oberglau. The thing that I don't think I can beat, that I didn't think I could beat all game, that's the best I think I've got. And then we got these guys still moving. I decided to shift this Ephraim over to here, just so that if things go really badly for me, because I only have 3 brigades in here, well, that'll get me a 4th brigade to prevent that line from just collapsing completely, just in case things go horrible for me. That's going to put me to charge. Let's do a quick count. We only got 1 in French in charge, so it's going to be the Allies going first. Funny, when I first started smoking pipe, it was my Psycho X got me onto it. That's not one of my wives. I've had 4 long-term relationships. She was the second one. When she got me into smoking pipe instead of cigar, she basically brought me, one of her dad's pipes. And I don't know if it was right away, but she brought me, because he had stopped smoking, she brought me his pipe knife. And I couldn't understand the point to that. I'm used to the little pipe tools, right? That's what my dad used. Now I barely use pipe tool, right? It's got a little scoop, okay, whatever. I can usually tap out just by banging it. And it's got a reamer and a tamper that I never use. I got a thumb, man. My fingers show that I never use the tool. But yeah, I guess the little scooping out was what the knife was for when it came down to it. Now I can't live without a pipe knife. I didn't smoke constantly at that point, but being able to cut into the baked in crap, like the residue, it was absolutely vital. Oh, my computer's working at all now. I'm getting a blank screen. What the hell? Anyway, I'm gonna go to the charges. I just went to reload my pipe and realized, wow, things really changed. And it wasn't when I got the pipe knife. It took me a long time before I started using it, several years before it became kind of an important thing to me. But now, the idea of using one of the pipe tools, I have a few, but it's just they seem so almost pointless to me. The reamer's kind of useful, but it's not long enough, so I use other things. Some of it's just the weirdness of Windows 10. Like, there's a little cursor thing there. There wasn't before. I had to click to get that to show up. You know, I'm used to when something's loading, there would be a cursor of some sort present. I would be able to see that the monitor is still working and whatnot. I guess eventually you'd get used to these little quirks, but now it's like, it also wasn't showing like the bar, the program bar under it and stuff like that. I'm like, why do they have to fucking change things, and why do they have to change things to make them worse? Side out of my chargers, the most important one to fire off was Hurleville, or de Hurleville, who attacked this. That was these two units here, and pushed a cav back. In this case, both units got repulsed. No damage, just repulsed. I was on really good charts against this thing twice. That's, I don't know how likely, you know, this is the area where you can start getting DEs, right? And stuff like that. I was hoping to break up the French line, get lucky. I'm going to have to get really lucky if I'm going to break either side here. And really anywhere. I think I'm going to have to get really lucky. And I think the French at this point have given up on the chances of actually winning this battle rather than getting it as a draw, but a draw is a victory for them in the game. Here we're now in interpretation realm. Okay, Brill, unable to get into dress ranks, which is what I wanted to do because I got damage here. I'm under an artillery hit here, but that doesn't matter. That leaves me in charge. Well, I can assess the pieces. Assessing this one first, he can charge here. Assessing this one, he can't do anything, but he probably wants to move forward a hex to connect the brigade up. But this guy is disconnected at the beginning of things. To me, that means he can't just turn here and attack. He might be able to do something, turn or whatever, but he's under movement orders. So I go 1-2 here. This guy, I don't know what to do with him. What is Broyle? Broyle's in the front line. He's got to be careful. Bligny is just committed, so he doesn't really count. But I have to be careful about Ancillary. And I'm actually pushing illegally there. But I must, because this is the position that my charge, like this has charge priority over like other possible attacks, like into here or whatever. But this guy is not, do I want to be in an artillery hit zone? I don't know. The real question there is, what do I want to defend cover? 1, 2, 3, I guess. I don't know. And that means I get to launch one attack against this thing. It ends up pushing him back. But again, we're seeing a horrible situation here. Like Brohl is not only is violating the Ansley command. Of course, Ansley has to fix that themselves when they come around. That was the only charge for the French. So now we have a few more. Scheckendorf, and then this wing over here. And that, I don't know, Hesse Homburg, but they're going to try to recover. Scheckendorf launched attacks, one of them against Broyle here, the others against these two. They ended up in a firefight and routing one unit, didn't break the unit. I realized once again I forgot about Churchill over with the Herbeville. I didn't roll for his death either, so I guess we can just pull him off at this point because he basically wasn't in command. That is the only, that's a valid excuse there. Okay. For some fucked up shit. So Bielke got to go next. They're charging. They're going to be hitting here, here, and here. Fine. I do this first. The cav had to make a check to see if it runs away because it's stuck. It does. It's stuck because of this unit here. Oh no, it's actually not stuck. Oh, this is fucking annoying. No, it has to retreat out of one of these hexes because it's being attacked from there. So it is stuck. Now, this unit is covering the flank, so I actually don't hit it. And that's the whole issue. That's what seems weird, is that, like, it's covering the flank. Like, what really should be happening is I'm hitting the unit covering the flank, and that's what broke. But anyway, I think we've been over this ground again, so I'm going to be routing through Mount Brune. That's going to actually weaken them significantly. And the hero of the hour, Bjelke. These are Danes. They attacked 3 things, I think. A Mount Brune unit here, which they managed to push back. Oh no, the Mercy unit here, sorry. A Mercy unit here as well, which we got locked into a firefight. That was kind of lucky. We could have broken from that very easily. And then the Mount Brune Cav, which was in front of us somewhere. I'm sorry, not Mount Brune. The Font Buissard Cav. We pushed back. That went through a Mount Brune, routed it. So here's the routed units that ran away, but basically both brigades dissolved. And now there's just a gaping hole. All there is this Conflans Cav in the way here. But this wing also has Mercy and Tourelle. Mercy's kind of beaten up. Most likely place the Allies, most likely place either side looks like they're going to win the battle at this point. And it's definitely the Allies. But it's Lutzingen. The strong point there is, you know, if that can hold, it can hold. But it's getting pretty beat up. Mercy is at least in dress ranks, so I can fall back and repair that. When it comes to my time, no other allies are going to be hitting it at that point. And these guys are fresh. I don't see what I can do to them yet, but we'll see. I'm a little worried about buying Crusader Kings at all at this point, is that the game may slow down due to the size of the changes in place. I remember it used to bog down as you played it for a while, and I'm actually worried that that may be what I ran into, was that it's holding too much game state and memory to actually play. Anyway, I got one more think. They just pushed the Conflans Cav back. Again, it's not going to do much. I think if I manage to chase them off the board, they're dead. I don't know. I don't know if there's a specific role on that, but that's pretty standard. But that means I can swing this flanking maneuver around and get maybe some pressure on these units. Can I do it quickly enough? I don't know. I do have a couple more turns to go, so yeah, maybe. And the French open up with their own power move with Bligny moving up, kind of cutting the Scheckendorf off. I mean, yeah, there's some routers there. There is something that could connect this line up somehow, but we are reestablishing something like a reasonable line. There's just a break. Can do that because these guys have become frontline units due to the transfer or commitment that I made. I don't remember what I did previously. Like, I take actions and then I forget what they were. Did the Bligny? Oh yeah. These guys couldn't get into address ranks, so I made an attack on these charging units and ended up in another firefight with them. And then Biebedorf, or whatever, as opposed to Brockendorf, or Borkendorf, or something like that, finally charged, and they hit here, here, and not there, just these two. And got bounced off here. This is their first fires, and got a firefight here. I'm hoping, you know, I was hoping to dislodge Claire a little bit, start collapsing this, because, again, this looks really good. This looks really good. Like, those are the two now. This is weird, right? You know, before it was like here and here seemed like they were going to be the wings that were going to collapse for one side or the other. But now it's really looking like the Allies have a shot here, which it was in stasis for a long time, and over here. In fact, this strong point was looking kind of weak too, but I think it can hold out. But yeah, it just comes down to a, can I surround? And I don't think I can hit this one. I think maybe this one though. I don't know. I still think it's going to be a French win by their default victory conditions. That means I'm going to take a break because it looks like I got my Crusader Kings back in play, and I hope it's a little faster this time. It'll be around that 6 or 7 a.m. I woke up at 4 today, and we'll probably have to go back to sleep. Among other things, although honestly, me waking up at 4 meant I still got like 6-7 hours of sleep, so you know, not much. I don't have to get much of a nap or whatever. One of the things that happened, first of all, there was a lot of stuff I had to do in Raid, okay, and whatever. But about the time that I quit playing Crusader Kings for the night or evening, because I quit around 6, was you know, I've worked the whole game, and I played, I don't know, over 100 years in game to get certain little additions to my little Irish territories, and got myself High King, whatever. Well, High Queen actually, and then I got an heir. Well, I had a lot of deaths in the family, and I ended up with an heir that I didn't particularly want as the heir, but he's not bad. But somehow or another, I got myself in a situation where I kind of lost most of what I spent 100 years in game gaining within a year, you know? And we're just talking about a couple of provinces. I mean, I don't know. It's not that huge a deal, but it's like I spent a lot of time trying to expand that, and now it's very discouraging. So I guess the difference between it and honestly Warrior, I can't remember what it is, Medieval Warriors or whatever, has the same problem where play takes a long time, maybe not as long as this, but between those and like Empires of the Middle Ages is that in Empires the time passes a lot more quickly, and the changes happen more quickly. It's more abstracted. And I'm running on the fastest level and all that, although that's getting to be an issue because the computer is beginning to slow down on these games. The computer just chokes on. I didn't expect my wife's to choke on it. I knew mine would. Probably could handle some of the older ones better. But I don't know, because there's so much data is kind of the problem. Like, it just maintains so much. But, I mean, I think I'm going to go back to it and keep playing that scenario. But it is difficult. And it definitely helped me walk away. Anyway, we're in the kind of weird lighting situation right now where there's a lot of glare on here, but I can live with this, even though it's kind of hitting from the worst angle. It hasn't moved to the computer yet, but that's fine. I got more to do in Raid that I have to deal with, and you can see all the dust, all the hair, everything shows up. I didn't mind the hair so much when it wasn't white. The white ones fall out easier. All right, and I think we're on the first of the movement actions over with the French. Command chart and the linear warfare concepts, whatever, prevent me from doing the kind of things you would do in a normal tactical game of this nature. So I have this Tourovre here, And what I'd love to do is just slide them in and cover the flank here. If it was pure I go, you go, I would move Mercy up to defend there. I would move these around to that flank. That's all what I would do, but I can't. He's committed to this right side of Mercy. Mercy can't move until after he gets his dress ranks orders, which means this guy who's in movement orders before him can't, immediately fill in the gap or anything like that. So it's causing me all kinds of issues up there. Some of it's kind of gamey, but overall, I think it's really helping show the cumbersome nature of these armies when they were fighting battles. And there's something nice about that. See, it's just so weird. I have like this mixture of like, wow, this is really doing some great stuff, and it's certainly trying to do a lot that I really want. And oh boy, there are some real impediments, and issues that I don't know if they can even be resolved. And the battle just got a lot closer to being an Allied victory. Webb got into charge and hit Kutkun. Sounds almost Aztec. I really think it's got to be Dutch. And pushed one unit back into here. First fire, both sides got first fire actually there. Here I got first fire on a unit that was in a firefight here. Remember, there were like 2 units in firefight here. Well, I didn't even have to use my artillery, my battalion guns, because, or brigade guns, I don't know which they're called, because I could look and see my first fire was going to break that unit. I wouldn't have to roll a die. So that sent those units through, and then a roll routed the command. That leaves this wing down to only Claire. That's all that's there. If that breaks, with nothing aligned and allowed to move into that wing, no matter what I do, if I cheat wings, whatever, that's a break. And Claire is basically surrounded at this point. Now, can I hit him right away? Not with Webb, not with Scheckendorf, I don't think. They always, fuck. So he's in a legitimate position when the attack started. He's probably being screwed now. So when he comes, he's going to have to fix the situation. But what I did was a legitimate attack. He actually can't fix the situation. So I may have some difficulty getting into position to attack Claire from behind. But the thing is, if I attack him from the front, retreats are going to put him into an ugly position too. So all kind of cool shit is happening there. I feel like this battle is almost over at this point. And that's a good thing, because this turn and only 2 more. So, we're kind of punching up against the line there. There's nothing that can save Claire except Claire themselves getting good rolls and whatnot. After a couple of piddling moves over on this flank, Turarva attempted to attack Bjelke, and flank. Bjelke is in charge, so I can do a flank attack into him without leaving move order. If I went into dress ranks, I couldn't do it. I don't particularly want to go into charge. Didn't get a good die roll, got like a 9, and basically got an attacker retreat. Can't retreat on top of Mount Mercy. Can't retreat on top of units that are facing the other way. I could have shifted those units, opening up a retreat. Instead, I had to roll on the unable to retreat table. I got lucky there. The idea here was, look, I route these guys. That might change the material situation over here significantly. It's not going to, again, nothing's going to save him. But I could conceivably turn this area around so it's not also threatened. I don't know. It looks pretty unlikely to me. And I think the rest of the move orders, and there probably aren't many, well, there's a fair amount, but they're all kind of back. Oh no, there's a couple of French ones left. Okay. But those are definitely not going to do much. I've got this Bayes and Cav, which if this guy had fallen, had retreated, I could hit him, but now I can't. So he can't do anything if I hadn't taken the risk. Otherwise, I think everything's just kind of fiddle around in the background. That pretty much covers the march orders. That's going to put it on the French dress ranks. This guy, I get him confused because I think he's gray. No, I got one more thing I could consider. I can consider whether or not to launch an attack with this cav. That's dangerous. First of all, attacks across the river, not good. Not good at all. I can hit this because it's got an exposed flank if I get a charge order. I think I'm going to hold off on it and we'll leave things as they are. But that is one last possibility for me to hit here. But yeah, these guys are gray. I think they're the gray unit. They're not. They're this thing. I had to move Erbach over for Rantzau. Okay. And that, he actually had to move because de Herville has been pushed back far enough that the front line is now here, although most of him's up here. And this is one of the things, like some unit gets knocked back a couple of hexes and you're forced into a situation where everything else on the field, because it doesn't get to move and rectify its own situation, everything else on the field has to rectify its situation. Whereas if that unit just routed or something, you know, it wouldn't count, right? I would be able to keep a defensive line here where I wanted it instead of having to be back a hex with these guys like left shaking in front of me. I don't know what to say about that. One thing might be, you might be in a position where you should be allowed to, like, I don't know, allow a unit to route maybe? I don't know. Something just feels like it breaks in that situation. But there are many situations in this game where something feels like it's breaking a little bit. So yeah, that'll get me to the dress ranks. I don't know what the French can do. I don't think it's much. Wilke got into charge, and he got relatively lucky, to tell you the truth. He pushed two of Saint-Sigon back, got in a firefight with the other. These are all at penalties. Like, I'm on the -1 or -2 table for every one of these attacks. So it's kind of impressive that they all succeeded to some extent or another. So Saint-Sigon could have fallen back to here. I'm not sure there's any restrictions, like, I'm not sure you have to follow, well, in this case, brigade integrity when you're retreating. It feels like you should, but I would have preferred to be here, to be honest. So I think I'm actually going to go there because I don't think I can find anything on retreating requiring that. And the advantage to that is I'm in dress ranks. I'll have a contiguous line because this guy falls back, this guy recovers. So, oh, I'm not in dress ranks, but fucking great. I might be able to fall into dress ranks, and that'll allow me to have a contiguous line and defend that. I'm not expecting this sector to fall, so it's okay. You know, there's kind of a, hey, nothing really matters right now except what my luck is right here, because I don't think any other section of the map is going to collapse in the given amount of time, but we'll see. You know, I mean, a brigade can collapse on a single attack, and that can have some fairly significant effects beyond that single brigade. Like, you know, it's not always just like, oh, where do you not have any troops? The French line is stretched just about everywhere. And the net effect at the end of the turn, not much has changed. A little bit of movement here and there. We had an interesting situation where both sides were trying to pass on the dress, trying to play off dress ranks to determine who got to go last here, because if Palma and Rowe could get into charge after this went, they could conceivably kind of collapse this line. As it stood, though, neither one could get into charge, and they were also, the French were able to have enough dress ranks units, mainly the flip-off was happening down here, in order to, so it would have been one of these, Palma maybe would have gotten a charge, right? And then this could have recovered from that charge with the dress ranks, and that makes Rowe a lot less likely to do a damn thing. But a lucky roll, whatever, could force a no retreat situation, could force routers to go through the Angelo unit. Is that what it is? Argello, sorry. R's ends. But yeah, for the most part, nothing really moved here. That means it's time for routers and cleanup. Forced to play a little fast and loose. The way the rules go, I had a router here or something. He would try to move here, get stopped by the stream, the marshy stream that can only be crossed with full movement points. But instead, his extra movement point put him to the causeway. I feel like, just like these guys don't run into the burning building, you know, I feel like I have to use some common sense to handle how things operate on the board. And, you know, a lot of games have this, especially older games. This reminds me of older kind of broken games in a lot of ways. It's like where the rules weren't able to be expressed. You know, nobody had come up with the exact right way to express how the rules should work in a lot of cases. In some of the earlier stuff, I'm not so much talking with Avalon Hill, where what the hell? Now I can't remember, but the early rules were not necessarily presented in a good fashion. Like, a lot of work had to go into that, but the games were simple enough that the stricture of the rules of the classics were generally pretty solid. I'm talking more about stuff that came after them. SPI had a few cases of this, but what really sort of happened was you had some sort of really smaller companies, and I'm having trouble coming up with something in mind right now which really exemplifies this. Probably the most cases I've seen of this is SPI having, like, not expressed, left out an important concept from the rules just because it was kind of assumed, and then you end up like looking and you're just saying, well, wait a minute, you know. Although some of the Avalon Hill games, but from a later period, had this problem as well. Wizards comes to mind here, but it's a cool game, but it has this horrible tendency to, like, not express all of what's going on, and you have to kind of bring common sense to the game instead of expecting the rules to handle everything. But people who've grown up on sort of more competitive games don't like that, right? They want to play the game as written. And when you do that, you end up losing the simulation value. The person playing the competitive nature of the game says, wow, that's stupid. I can't believe it's that way. But they'll fight desperately to like play the game as written rather than change it. And then it's like, pick a lane, man. Not all of them. Some people will simply play the abstract rule set no matter how it looks, and they will argue it till they're blue in their face. I come from the other side of the aisle, more or less, which is, yeah, if I don't like a rule, I want to change it. Lots of solo play makes that easy. The problem with that is when you're bringing the game to other people, when you're playing with other people, you have to be able to give them a rule set, you know, especially if they're playing competitively. Now, I would often play with groups because I was more into multiplayer stuff, where I'm like, all right, look, I've played this several times. I'm not going to be playing directly by the rules, so you know you can pick up the rules and look at them and see what they are. But I'm going to explain to you what the rules are, and I'll arbitrate certain things, and you may not like the results. I'm not going to be unfair, you know, in my favor or anything like that. I have no interest in that at all. I have an interest in keeping the game alive, and you know there are things that like there's just no way to face the game otherwise, and that would be the case with this. Like, I wouldn't. It's one of the problems I came to when I went to Empires in Arms and started playing it with people who decided to, you know, who also read through the rules, not established community people, whatever. And we just had to sit down and hash out. We spent like an 8-hour day hashing out what the rules were supposed to be. You know, in it. And now, much worse than that is like Europa Universalis. This is one where I introduced it. Had a group of 6 people to play the first era. I'm like, look, it's going to take us a week to get through to you know analyze the rules and come up with the arguments. There was one other guy who knew the rules who was with me, and we discussed certain points, and you know, like. I would say, look, I'm going off the rails here, and this is why. And he would either say okay or argue with me or whatever. But yeah. All right. Actually, I loaned him my copy, and then he went out and bought a copy, which was kind of cool. I really, like, the only other game that he had ever gotten, the only other 2 games that he had gotten excited about were the 2 Australian design games, the Empires in Arms and WIF. And I don't know how big he was on Empires in Arms. He seemed pretty big on WIF, but he actually I don't think he bought either of those. He went out and bought your EU. I think because he knew that like there was no way we were going to get a campaign game of that going. It was just like with full player count. Whereas we managed to get close to that with Empires in Arms, and certainly with WIF very easily. All right, what am I at? Yeah, I'm at cleanup. Okay, and we're getting close to the end of the video. Awesome. There we are, pushing into the 6 p.m. 2 more turns. Oh, what's our situation? You know, I mean, first thing I gotta say is this game has swung back and forth in the sense that, like, there were times when I'm predicting one side or the other is going to win. And it's still tense at this moment. It's still coming down to what happens down here, really. And other sectors, I think, are unlikely to cause a victory for either side. But it's coming down to, can the French hold out here long enough to get the default victory? The default victory seemed assured a turn ago, right? It keeps swinging back and forth while you know combat is happening over here in ways that don't feel like, I don't know, as I mean, I'm just thinking about like the musket and pike battles that are really swingy. Those tend to be like big units of Cavs smashing into each other and whatnot. It doesn't feel like it's a foregone conclusion even now. So what do we got? Well, this sector here, it's broken open, but I think the French can hold. It's iffy. It's iffy. Here, this has become a really solid sector where it wasn't before. Oberglau, way up in the air. Down to one brigade trying to hold it. There was nothing that could finish Claire off once that became obvious last turn. But there's a lot they can hit it this turn. So, you know, an unlucky roll or two, and it's game over there. This is still a swirling mess. The French are trying to form lines. Ansley is officially in the front line here. What the hell is going on? How is Brule in front of them? Because I cheated. Okay, Ansley was in dress ranks. I think this guy was injured. This guy's safe. So this is probably would have had to have happened to try to get him to try to correct that. We'll do that. Yeah, I mean, the line is just broken for both sides, and it's looking more like a normal battle, like a normal game from non-linear combat era. And then over here, while the Allied forces under Wilke, the Hessians mainly, have pushed forward and gained some significant ground, this is still a pretty solid location here at Blenheim. The interesting thing is that it's the 3 strong points now, which are the most at risk of Allied victories. I don't think any one can happen in the remaining length of the game except this one, but that's where the Allies are gaining the most ground. They've busted this one open. That can't hold. It's just, it can hold 2 turns, I think. This one, they've pushed it back significantly, and I think there's a fair chance that that's going to break apart. This is just a crapshoot, man. I mean, I got no idea. There's less French troops. Anyway, we're going to load this up and probably take a break for a while. Maybe a nap even. I had pizza. I talked about that earlier in this. I cooked a frozen pizza or whatever, and half of it for dinner, and then half of it for breakfast, and no eggs for me or anything like that. Why do I say this? I don't know. It feels like it's an important thing somehow. Every little bit of everything, because so little happens in my life.